Okay, welcome to St. Joseph's first podcast or live stream, however you want to put it. So I've chose that song, Thunder, because this is a thunderous topic, trigonometry, and it's really important to get this right. So the main features of this topic is that it's right angle triangles. Now before we kick off, I think it's really important to consider some of the vitals for getting this topic done, the vital equipment. So first of all, we need a pen, we need a pencil, we need a ruler. We don't really need a protractor in this case, but it is useful to have just in case it's a proper scale drawing. And the most important thing of all for trigonometry is a calculator. Now notice the calculator has to be a scientific one. Okay, so this is a Casio one, and I really advise anybody, no matter what level you're at, to get one of these, because if nothing more, it does do BIDMAS and other calculators don't do BIDMAS. So really important equipment. So let's get going. So this is to do with right angle triangles, as you can see, and I've drawn two already. Now the idea of this is that there's three parts to a triangle, and I'm not talking about just the three sides here, I'm talking about two sides and an angle, and they are connected with some firm rules. So if they're connected, it leads on to the third side. So all of these things are important. You're dealing with three parts each time, and if you've got two of those, you can work out the third one because of the rules and the way the connections go. So let's kick off again with some basics. So here we have a right angle triangle, and you can see that it's got a right angle just in the corner there. Always look for that, because without the right angle sign you won't be able to do this process. Now what you end up having here is you have one angle and two sides. Okay, so let's give that an angle of 30. And this side can be 15 centimeters, and this one is what we don't know. Okay, so what we need to do now is we need to label these sides. So if you can look at the first side to do, we've got this long side here, and it's always the opposite of the right angle. So what you've got is this side is always the same, so we can call it hypotenuse. And it's always the same label. Hypotenuse is the biggest side, it's opposite the right angle. And then this side here is virtually opposite the angle there, so we're going to call that opposite. Now if we needed this side, we'd call that adjacent, because that's next to the angle, and adjacent is a word in maths for meaning next to, adjacent. So it's a word meaning next to. Now the thing is that the opposite and adjacent may swap depending on where the triangle is. So let's take this triangle for example in a similar way. This time the angle's going to be in this corner, so let's make that 40 degrees. Okay, the hypotenuse is always going to be that side. So the opposite now is going to be here. So the opposite and the adjacent are interchangeable. Now notice how I'm using shorthand, makes life a little bit easier for working out, saves you a little bit of time. So that's the first thing, to learn how to label the sides. Now once you've labelled the sides, you've got this rule and this word to learn. Okay, so we say what this word is. It always reminds me of a Japanese word. It's got nothing to do with Japan or Japanese, but it sounds a little bit like that. Sohcahtoa. Sohcahtoa. Okay. Now there's actually a really good way of writing the sohcahtoa. This is optional, but Mrs. Jobson told me this little trick. So the middle letter of each little section should be a little bit higher. And there is a good cause for that, for our working out later on. If you can get used to that, writing it in that way, there's a little trick for later on, and you can see how they interconnect. So that's the first part there done. Okay, so let's just have a commercial break. Alright, just as we sideline, here's a question for you. 3 plus 2 times 4. I'll give you exactly 10 seconds to work that out. And here we go. So a lot of people will think 3 plus 2 is 5, 5 fours are 20. Catches everyone out all the time. Try it on your parents. They'll love it. Okay, but that's wrong because we have to use this word bidmus. Okay, and this is the order we go in. So this tells us that if we go down the list, brackets, indices, division, multiplication, that's before the add. So we do that bit first. 2 fours are 8. And then the 3 afterwards. 3 add 8 is going to be 11. Boom, there we go. So don't get caught out on that one. Right, let's move on. So, look at this one. Here's a little good number I found earlier on, okay? Might be a little bit blurry on your screens. Don't forget I'm using a DIY visualizer, but you'll get the right idea. Okay, so what have we got? I'll read it out to you. Batman Trigonometry. The police commissioner in Gotham City is testing a new way of using bat signal so that the signal is immediately above the crime that Batman needs to attend. In order to do this, the commissioner needs to calculate various measurements using trigonometry. He never thought he'd use it, but now he was wrong. Help the commissioner calculate the missing information for the crimes being committed. So with the Joker's robbing the bank, and we've got how far to the scene. We've got to find this one. This value here is 9 kilometers. I'll go over it so you can see it easily, and that's 23 degrees. Now, although we've got some nice graphics going on here and here, the important thing is to take the actual triangle itself. And as we've learned so far, label those sides. So we've got hypotenuse, and we've got the angle, and we're using this value here. So that's going to be the adjacent this time because it's next to the angle. This one's the opposite. Okay, but we don't need that because it's not even in the calculation. So we either miss that out, which is what I teach, or label it and cross it out. We don't need it. Okay, so the next thing is we can go back to our list. Now just remember A and H for a second. A and H. So in this sohcahtoa business, we've got one section with an A and H in. Okay, that's got an O and H, that's not A and H. That's got an A and H, that's not got an H. So that tells us we need that formula. And that means cos adjacent hypotenuse. Okay, so we write that out first of all, and now we've got one mark. Cos equals adjacent divided by hypotenuse. One mark already. Okay, that's because you've selected the correct sign. Now don't get this mixed up with the cos is on a calculator. If you look on the calculator it says cos, but that's a language thing. Okay, so little buttons, they can only have 3 letters. It's a little bit blurry there. I'll try and adjust my my focus for my next podcast. Let me just have a little look, see if we can make that a bit better. Okay, probably made it worse. Let's go the other way on the focus. Bear with me for a second. Technical hitch here. There you go. How's that? A little bit better. Yes, slightly. That's I know. Right. Okay. I'm just going to pause for a second. All right. I just noticed that I can do this. There. How's that? It's probably a bit worse, isn't it? Okay. Anyway, I'll get there in a second. Right, there we go. Still a bit blurry. I'll work on that and make it a little bit better for my next live stream. Okay, but we can see the writing, and that's the important bit. So let's go back to this. So the next thing is we need to put in the values for this. So adjacent, we don't know that, so we can leave that as adjacent, or if it's got a little letter, maybe an X or something like that, you can sub that in. And then the hypotenuse we've got as 9, and the angle goes with the cos. So we're going to write cos of the angle 23 equals x over 9. Okay, where we went to the sohcahtoa bit here, Luke, this is helps you a little bit on this one because the A is raised up. So the adjacent, the X, is raised up, so that's the high one. Now we've virtually done this so far, okay. Going back to that cos, it's cosine. That's what I was saying about the little letters cosine, but it's shortened to cos to fit on the button. Okay, so we use the cosine button, the cos button is short. And now we need to know what to do next. There's 2 marks gone now, so we're well into this. Need to know what to do next. Now I've got this divide by 9 business going on here. I don't really want to divide by 9. I don't like that bit, so I want to do the reverse of a divide by 9. So that's going to be a times by 9. So if I times by a 9, the times by 9 and divide by 9, they cancel. But I've got to do the same to the other side. So my x is 9 times cos 23. Now don't worry, the x is on this side. It's absolutely fine. Okay, and then we dive in to the calculator. Okay, and we find out that put straight in 9 times cos 23. So you can just about see that. Sorry about the bit of blurring going on. As I say, I'll work on that for next time. So we press equals. Don't forget to put, you can see just here, the brackets. Really important to close that bracket off, and then that comes in at 8.28. Okay, so x equals 8.28, rounded to 2 decimal places or even 1 decimal place. Now go back to the original diagram. You can see kilometers, so we can put kilometers in there. Okay, brilliant. Let's have a look at this second one then. Okay, similar idea. We'll take a commercial break for a second. All right. Okay, commercial break, but going back to business, give you a second to think about that. 4 plus 2 divided by 2. And you should have got 5. Boom. Good stuff. Right, here we go again onto the Batman one. Okay, let me go over these diagrams. Okay, as I say, I'll work on the blurry camera for next time. But we've got a 14 degrees there, 7 kilometers there, and this is what we need to find. So I'm going to put an X in there. Okay, why do we always use X and Y? Well, it's really related to the coordinates, I think, and so you can tie it up with coordinates. So X and Y are often used in maths. So here we go now. So labelling, first of all, we've got opposite. This is hypotenuse. Now you can either put it in or do what I do and miss it out. I'll put it in for today though. And this one is going to be the adjacent. So I don't want that. Alright. Now I'm going to write sohcahtoa out this time. Okay, so we've got opposite and adjacent. I want you to think about that for 15 seconds. Which of these, so or the ka or the toa, were you going to choose? Congratulations, you've got a toa. Brilliant. So toa, O and A, tan. So another good little tip. Write this out in full. Don't try and dive in with substituting in first. Think about writing the whole equation out, because that'll give you a mark straight away. So O is the high one, so opposite at the top, adjacent underneath. Okay, that little making that high is really useful for this little process. Okay, now the second part is quite easy. So even if you don't get full marks on this question, you should be able to label, choose the right function, and substitute in. Okay, so substitute in tan 14 equals 7 over x. Okay, now this is a little bit tricky to organize now. Okay, because it's what to do. And you've got two steps to do here. You've got a times by x like we did before, and then a divide by tan 14. So we'll do the two steps separately, and then I'll show you a trick on how to check your answer. Okay, so the first thing is to times both sides by x. So it's x times tan 14 equals 7. Well, that's no good because it doesn't get us the x value on its own. So you need to do the next step, and the reverse of a times by tan 14 to get the x on its own will be divide that by tan 14. So I'm left with 7 divided by tan 14. Okay. So on the calculator, I can use the fraction button, which is that one there. Okay, again, a bit blurry, but you can see whereabouts it is on the calculator. So we want 7 on the top. Use your cursor to go down. Then tan 14, like so. Press the right hand button. Oh, good idea to close the bracket off there. Okay, I'll just hold on a minute there. Need to delete that. Okay, close the bracket off there at the bottom. I like to press the right hand button of the circle to get the cursor in the middle. You don't have to, but it's a habit I've got into. You can get the focus on that a little bit. It's exactly the same as what I've got there. Press equals, and there we go. So 28.1. So if you've got a calculator, you might want to try that out. 08. Okay, that again, looking at the units here, we started in kilometers, so we end in kilometers. If you miss your units out, you've lost a mark. Okay, so that's it really for today. I'm going to do a trigonometry 2 where we're looking at an angle, but just before we go, I said I'd give you a little trick on checking to see you've got it right. So if I just move that up a little bit. Okay, so checking out your working out. Okay. So if we go back to this position here, tan 14 equals 7 over x. Now I really would like you only to use this as a little check, to be honest, because I want you to get into the habit of timesing things by both sides and dividing things by both sides. But used as a little check, it can be effective. And I know you use this in science for speed, distance, time. And what we do is we transfer all of that into this triangle diagram. So we've got tan 14, T14 for short, 7 over x, and it virtually tells you what to do here. Cover the one you're trying to find, and you've got 7 divided by tan 14. So to find my x, cover it up, 7 at the top, divide by tan 14. And then we can put that straight onto the calculator, or at least it's a nice little check. We did this bit of algebra correctly, and then we'll get the same answer as 28.08. Okay, so I'm going to put these worksheets onto this worksheet onto the website for you to have a little try at. Okay, and that's it for today. So I'm going to leave you with a little bit more AC/DC before we sign off. Trigonometry 2 will have a good song on it as well. So signing out, and a few little tips. Keep up to date, folks, with all the work. We've got the Pixel Maths going on. We've got the Google Classrooms. We've also got Mr Barton's Classrooms. There's some PowerPoints being posted onto your Google Classrooms. And always go to Google Classrooms to see what needs to be done. There's also quizzes going on there, and we're not getting everybody. On there working at the moment, so you need to be working and keeping up to date for when you get back to school. Okay, so we've just had a few little questions on here, so I'd like to say welcome to Mr Thulakarani. I can't say your name, but I call him Amith. He's a star, and also not a bad footballer. Mr Griffiths has joined us. Which website, sir? The Maths Facebook page. Yeah, I'm going to put the worksheet on the Maths website page, and also I'm going to try and and save this and put it onto the website for anyone to look at later on. But that's it for today. It's been a pleasure. It seems to be working okay. So I'll see you on Monday for Trigonometry 2.